What up, everyone? DJ Noobs here with you in a Metal Time Radio podcast doing another movie review. This time I'm doing Black Adam 2022, directed by Jaume Collet-Serra. Cast consists of Dwayne Johnson, Aldous Hodge, Pierce Brosnan, and many more that I cannot pronounce. Plot is nearly 5,000 years after he was bestowed with the almighty powers of the Egyptian gods and imprisoned. Just as quickly, Black Adam is freed from his earthly tomb, ready to unleash his unique form of justice on the modern world. So basically, the movie starts with a time period of 2600 BC, and there's this king, Acton, who is ruling over some slaves, and I guess they're kind of mining for some sort of rock or jewels or gems or something, which I think he's using to kind of build his crown of Sabak. And once he's had that crown made, it will supposedly grant him greater power. But during this time, a young slave boy resists and fights up and stands up and starts a revolt to try and fight back. He wants to be free. He wants his people to be free. And but he gets caught, and on the moment that he's about to be executed, he vanishes to another plane of existence where the gods are granting him the powers of Shazam. And so when he returns, he kills the king, but kills other people in the process. Like, it was a lot of devastation that went on there. And so, at least that's what we see, right? So that's what we see going on there. So then we flash forward to the present day, and you're in the city of Kahndaq that is under an invasion by a mercenary group called Energang. So mercenaries are out there, and they're doing whatever, kind of oppressing the people there for whatever reason. And there's this archaeologist named Adriana, who also moonlights as a resistance fighter, who is in the process of trying to retrieve the crown of Sabak in order to, I assume, free everyone in Kahndaq from these mercenaries. Like, they're not getting help from anybody else in the world. And I'll allude to some of that later on with some of the problems, not really problems with the movie, just problems with why they're doing what they're doing. So anyway, while Adriana is obtaining this crown, they do find it in this tomb area. They're caught by Energang soldiers who try to take the crown and eventually kill them. Like, they're just gonna assassinate them on the spot. But quick thinking by Adriana, she sees like some hieroglyphics on the ground, and she starts calling or reciting a passage that will awaken Shazam from his tomb. But we find out later in the film that it's not actually a tomb that Shazam's in. It's actually a prison. But she releases him, and we get our first look at Johnson as Black Adam. He's not called Black Adam at that moment. I think they have another name for him. I don't think it's even Shazam. Shazam is actually a term that if he speaks it himself, he'll go back to wherever he came from. Like, he's no longer, he loses his power. So, there's Kitty Cat. So anyway, we have him arrive, and he starts whipping the ass. He doesn't hold back. He kills them pretty handily and fries them and everything else. So he's delivering his own brand of justice. Now, he doesn't really have any real thought or empathy or anything for anybody at that point, because he's really just like pissed off. It's like he doesn't want to be there. He's pissed off that people are shooting at him, and that's really what it came down to, because he arrived and they just started fucking with him. So he didn't really know why he had arrived. He just knew that some guys were shooting at him, and he decided to whip their ass. Adriana also has a young son named Amon, who believes that Shazam is the guy that's the superhero that they need in Kahndaq to free them from Intergang, the mercenaries. And so we have this kind of like, his boys like kind of like annoying Shazam in a sense by telling him like, no, you're our hero. That's why you were brought back. We have this big statue of you out there. And of course, Shazam sees this and he's a little disturbed by it, but we don't know why. And then kind of flash forward, we get to where Amanda Waller shows up. Not so much in Kahndaq, but we see her off, at a different location, and she's doing a video feed with Hodge's character, who is named Hawkeye. He's a hero. And so Waller, if you don't know, she's the woman that appears in Peacemaker, Suicide Squad. She's the one that runs these heroes on that level for DC. I don't think she has any attachment to Superman. I don't know. Mainly just we generally just see her with all the lower level heroes and anti-heroes, basically, like the Suicide Squad. So she's there, and she's talking to Hawkman, who is the leader of a supergroup called the Justice Society, which consists of Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Cyclone, and Atom Crusher, Atom Smasher. And I knew Dr. Fate because when I play video games, I played this game called Injustice 2, which I really liked. And his character was in there. So there's a lot of characters that I'm not really familiar with. The rest of them I'm not really familiar with. But because of the game, I knew who Dr. Fate was. Which is a fun game, by the way. And Dr. Fate is actually played by Pierce Brosnan. He used to play James Bond back in the day, if you don't know who he is. But he does a really good job with that role. I thought Brosnan was probably the best out of everybody in terms of acting and doing the character. Some things towards the end of the film I am a little confused on, but I'm not going to. There's stuff that's just spoiler work that I know the movie's been out for a little while now on HBO Max, but I'm not going to give away too much because I don't know who all has seen and who hasn't. And I don't want to sway you too much with everything. So he did a good job with that character. And so Waller puts the task on the Justice Society to capture and stop Shazam, aka Black Adam, from what Waller sees as he's going to destroy the planet. Like they don't consider him a hero; they consider him a villain. Mainly, partly because he doesn't hold back with people that he fights against. So, like humans or whatever, he kills them. Like he doesn't really care about justice or like holding them in cells and all this stuff. So, I really enjoyed the film. I will say it's not like the greatest film. I'll put that out there. But it's a little weird to me because the critics really hate this film, and I'm not sure why. I suppose I have to go read a lot of their reviews to kind of gather what it is they really dislike about it. But the audience seems to like the film pretty well. I mean, I think it's still like 92%, maybe. Is that right? Which is good. Because that to me, a lot of times it's the audience that really matters the most anyway. But it's just kind of weird how the critics on Rotten Tomatoes kind of decide like what films they like and what they don't. So I'm not really sure what it is they really dislike about this. I think some of the criticism was Dwayne Johnson kind of plays like the same character them, I guess. But I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about these DC characters to really give you an impression of how they should act or don't act. When I see a movie, if I enjoy it, then that's really all that matters. There is quite a bit of CGI, so that was another gripe that they had. But in some cases, the CGI worked really well. So, like the character of Cyclone, her powers and ability, the way they kind of did the slow-mo with her and the colors, I thought that was just really cool with her and the way they did her powers with that. Adam Smasher, he was kind of like the comedy relief in some cases. He's a little clumsy. He can enlarge himself, kind of like Ant Man, and but he's kind of clumsy. And he's still learning because Cyclone and Smasher are really young, so they're like the newbies to the group that just join right before they go and try to capture Black Adam. Um, but yeah, I didn't really feel like that it was too bad of a film. One thing I do like about this type of film compared to some of the other ones in DC is that, and it's mainly just a personal preference. Like this is why I kind of like. I don't like the first Suicide Squad movie, but I like the premise. So the second Suicide Squad that James Gunn did, I really enjoyed because it was betterly written and better just characters overall. But I like the idea of the anti-hero. So Black Adam to me kind of resonates to me as a fan because he's not somebody who's going to be on this high moral ground. Like if he feels like you need to be taken out, he's just going to do it. And he's said that a couple times to the Justice Society. He's like, yeah, that's not who I am. I don't do that. Hawkman's the one that kind of butts heads with Black Adam a lot in this film. But there is a point where they end up coming together a little bit towards the end. But in the end, though, I think Black Adam is like one of those heroes that I will probably follow if they do any more with it. I don't know. The fact that Waller's there kind of like will have some tie-ins, I'm sure. I don't know exactly what their long-term plan is. I don't think DC ever has a long-term plan. Could end up having a whole new Black Adam. We never know because they don't keep the characters in place, the actors in place. So we have a new Batman every 5 seconds and whatnot. Anyway, my score chart is always 1 through 10. And it's interesting about this film because I'd probably watch this again over, say, like something like Wonder Woman, which I enjoyed the first Wonder Woman a little bit, except for the ending. The second Wonder Woman was trash to me. I would watch this, believe it or not, again over the new Batman with Pattinson. Like I gave Pattinson and Batman an 8 out of 10. It's just a far slower movie, so I don't get much entertainment out of it. Like it was decently made. The characters were kind of bland for me overall. Like the acting was just bland. But on a film like this, as cheesy as it is, it just has a lot more fun going on. So, I mean, it's not quite as fun as the Suicide Squad or like I've always said that I love Nolan's trilogy over pretty much anything, within recent years. So, if it comes to Batman, I'm watching that. Or if it's DC, I'm going to watch those 3 films before I watch anything else. I try to get into some of these other films, but don't. I just think DC's kind of missing the mark right now. Like Aquaman was okay, but again, I don't feel the need to go back and watch that one. I have no interest in the new one. Don't have interest in Flash. So there's just a lot of different things going on with this particular part of the universe that I just haven't been that crazy about. Like I didn't like Superman versus Batman. I tried watching the Snyder cut. Got about an hour and a half in. Like hated it. and it's 4 hours long. So people were like, "Oh, you should have stuck with it, dude." I'm like, I can't do it. It's just part of it's the casting. So that's part of my problem with some of that. But yeah. So 7 out of 10. This is a pretty C grade movie for me. It's fun enough. It's not as bad as the critics. I think they're like giving it like a 30% or something. Like they're really hammering it, and I don't think it's quite that bad. And it can't be for any woke reasons because it's like in a whole different nation. So you have the actors you have involved are all like Middle Eastern, basically. So the casting is diverse. There's nothing wrong there. I don't know if there was much virtual signaling in it or not, but I don't think you really need it in this film, really, and unless you're just going to be complaining that he's killing people. That's sort of how comics go. You have your darker heroes versus lighter heroes. So I don't think that's the problem. I just don't really know what the critics are really disliking about this film. Maybe they're the same way. Maybe it's the acting that's the problem, or the CGI. Maybe that's what they're hanging on. Don't know. Either way, half decent film for me. 7 out of 10. Thank you for checking out this review. I appreciate you if you give me a subscribe and a like, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Have a good time. Later.